All right, and here we go. I am sketching with my watercolor pencil again, and that's just because I prefer that to graphite. Like I mentioned in previous videos, I think it smears on the paper, at least the way that I apply it does. So watercolor pencil, always fun. And I'm just really sketching in the layout again, like in the last one where I just wanted to give myself the big shapes that I didn't want to destroy with another color so that I could leave them. We've got a path in the forest, nothing too exciting today, but I really wanted to focus on some landscapes and some backgrounds because that's a skill that I was working on and I don't want to lose what I've already learned. Plus, I want to get better at it because no matter what you want to paint, you got to do something in the background, right? Oh, even if you don't like landscapes like I don't, it's still a good skill to practice and to have. A little bit of liquid Frisket. Mostly I'm blocking out some areas in the greenery that I don't want to kill with any dark color, and same thing on the trees. I'm going ahead and blocking off my highlights, which I'll fill in with color later, but I'm going to go ahead and preserve the luminosity of that white paper. And here we go in with color. I do want to mention when you put that liquid Frisket on there, make sure it has dried before you start. Why? Because that super gummy stuff, as good as it is for blocking off the paper, it will ruin your brushes. You do not want to get that in your bristles. So please always make sure that that is dried before you start putting in color. This light green is just the highlights. I am using a reference photo. Again, this is a landscape study for me. Like everybody else, I can't really go outside right now, so Unsplash is my favorite place. No, I'm not sponsored by them, but that's my favorite place to get photos if you need somewhere to look. They usually have a pretty good selection. And there I'm blocking in again some darker. I'm just trying to get my different values, and my biggest goal with this piece was not to paint it necessarily accurately, but to make it look like a believable background that had depth. That's the thing I've been missing in some of my paintings. I get too saturated too fast, and I kind of lose that depth going to the back of the painting. When you add too much saturation to the back, sometimes you can lose that optical illusion of having a receding path. So I think what I might do as I'm studying landscapes is maybe I'll do one in sepia tones, or maybe we will just do black and white and some grays and study tone more than color. Because I think I'm still getting caught up in my colors. I want to match what I see, and as much as, you know, that feels like the goal sometimes, for your painting, I was told at some point you have to do what's best for the painting. And so with painting, it's not always about what you see, it's about what you're trying to accomplish and how you can make the eye do that. So color is super easy to get caught up and think, but it's not the right color. Well, that doesn't always matter depending on what you're painting. You really just want it to convey really the optical illusion that you're trying to make the eye see. And that was my weird rant for you guys. I hope that was useful and made sense. I'm still learning. Putting in some trees. That's the other thing I'm really trying to figure out is I love these lush green landscapes, but putting greens against each other and trying to convey the depth of those colors is so tricky, because you can see where I have coming in from the left, there's like that line of trees that I put in originally, and then up there at the top are these other trees that I want to say are actually closer, but it's a mixture because these are trees planted in a row, so some of them are pulling forward, some of them are further back. And oh my goodness, if you can hear a scattering in the background, I am so sorry. Nori is losing his little mind. Quarantine is hard on everybody, guys. Oh, I added in that yellow, and that's because I picked this particular photo because there was a luminosity coming in from the right that I really wanted to convey. And you can see I put in that bright yellow. That's not what I ultimately wanted. It's all right. I don't think even by the end of this painting, I'm not super happy with those top trees. That's why I went on about that for a little bit. But I am very happy with these little trees at the back, because that's another thing I'm trying is receding trees. It can be so hard. You feel like you have to put in all of the tree trunks to convey it because that's what you see, and you don't really need all of them. If you can kind of loop them together, show pieces of them where maybe light's cutting some of them off, you will create a more full feeling without having to paint all of them, which honestly, take it from me, I've tried, can just look very busy and it doesn't look right. I'm pretty happy with those. And then naturally as we come forward, I'm trying to pay attention to, so less saturation in the back, more color up front. And that's what I'm doing with these trees to convey depth, is in my head, if they're on the same line of being back, I tried to paint them the same color, although there's definitely a more lightness, more warmth on the right side of this picture than on the left side where the sunlight is not coming as much. I actually added a little bit of purple into that brown just for some more color and contrast. I really wanted it to look different than the more yellow hued trees in the back, which is kind of funny because even though I'm bringing more saturation up front, I'm not having it lighter up front, or I'm not having it warmer up front. The back is definitely much warmer where the light is hitting, and up front becomes much, much darker. And if you have never videoed yourself and watched back and watched your painting, I super recommend it, because this is a learning experience, even for me, outside of doing the painting. Your paintings don't always look the same way to you while you're painting them, but I've learned as I watch them where I feel like right now I probably could have done very minimal things to this painting, and it's not bad. It's not amazing, but it looks like a very simple watercolor study. And we are not going to stop here. We're going to add some more saturation. I will one day learn when to stop. Maybe by watching my own videos. Adding in some shadows of the trees. Those were visible. And then I realized right there where you see me adding it to that tree that I had meant to make that tree a different color, but I don't want to overdo it. Did want the shadows though. And where you see all of that kind of like white in the paint receding that's where your liquid frisket is, and that's because it is a rubber, and so the paint's not sticking to that. Adding a little more shading, darkening up the trees. Really want them visible, and those overlaying those trees in the back is also what really helps create that depth, when you can show distinctively that you have layers happening. Like that grove of trees that's behind all of those trees. Adding in some more shading with my colors. Switch to my brown brush here. So in general, I do find round brushes work a lot better when you want to convey a leafy texture, but I've been having a lot of fun creating those haphazard textures with the flat brush. If you've only ever used your flat brush for a wash, get it out and play with it. It's very cool. More colors here. You can see, sorry I didn't say it before, the liquid frisket has come off, and honestly, it really didn't rip anywhere. I ripped a little bit in one of the trees, and that's just because it was wet. If you make sure your page has dried completely, double check it, and then gently take off that frisket. And I haven't had an issue with it ripping my paper at all. So this is where I started to go a little overboard, because in my picture there was a lot more darkness in the foreground. And even right here, I'm pretty okay with it, but I don't stop. Can't stop. Won't stop. Gonna keep doing it. I really did like the addition of that yellow. And the fun thing with gouache, as you can see there, is that using that yellow and then coming in just with some wetness, you can really blend the colors into each other, and you can actually move gouache around on the paper almost as much as you can move oils. But no, that's an erroneous comparison. Oils stay wet forever and gouache does dry. But if you reactivate it with water, you really can blend the colors into each other, which is something I haven't been able to do with watercolor. So definitely points for gouache in that sense. And there you have it.